The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Michelle Parno has lived and worked in Lake Forest for over 2 decades. Michelle's lending experience, when combined with her real estate expertise, makes her an invaluable asset to her clients as they navigate their home buying or selling process. Call Michelle now at 847-528-8721, 847-528-8721. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Laracy & Company CPAs, founded in 2010 by Lake Forest's own Brian Laracy, specializes in tax preparation and bookkeeping services. Earning the People Love Us on Yelp award, their process is straightforward. Just upload, review, and file. For a free quote, visit LaracyCPA.com now. That's LARISEYCPA.com. I'm excited to share with you something special from our Lake Forest community, the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa, located at 775 North Bank Lane in Lake Forest near Wisconsin Avenue. This just isn't any spa. They offer an amazing blend of traditional spa services plus the added benefit of medical procedures and treatments. In a relaxing and luxurious spa environment, you can enjoy a range of cosmetic and aesthetic treatments. These are all performed under the supervision of top medical professionals. The Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa provides skin care, facial rejuvenation, body contouring, laser hair removal, Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and much more. What's great is that each treatment is tailored not just to enhance your appearance, but also to address specific skin concerns and to promote overall well-being. So if you're looking to pamper yourself and take your beauty routine to the next level, give the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa a call at 224-768-8028 or visit them at their location on North Bank Lane. It's an experience your skin will thank you for. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters, Otto, John C., Helen, Herrick, and J.M.
Good morning. How are you?
What's with the sign?
I saw a sign. Sign everywhere, a sign. It's that time. We're in the home stretch.
Let's have Mary Cole sign up. Where's the rest of them?
Mary's my... that's the one that's going to win.
So none of them.
Okay. Ben Grum and Andy Dalkin. I don't live in their districts. Okay, yeah. So.
What about
Garris? I like Jim. I really do. I'm voting for Jim.
Really? I don't. Where's his sign?
I don't have. He's going to kill me when I say this.
Whatever.
I hope he does. I hope he pulls off the mother of all upsets. Okay.
Anyways,
Mary can win. The numbers are there, man. And I think, the more you hear about Eric Reinhardt, the better Mary Cole looks as the candidate.
If you want to keep pushing that peanut up the hill with your nose, keep going. How was the football game? Thanks for posting the picture. You went?
Yeah. Skoo sounded great. Had I had more than 3 minutes of show prep time to interview Skoo last week, I would have had him maybe do one of his calls on the air with us.
His number one call is check that.
No, it's and go Scouts.
Running the ball. Wait, check that.
Anyways. No, but he reads. Look, and I like I said, I have total mad respect for what you have to do to announce a game,
or speaking in general.
He reads well, but he doesn't. But when he speaks, like on our show, he sounds very different than he does up in the booth. That's my point. My wife, the very first time we went to a game after we started watching the podcast and we learned that Skoo was the guy calling the games, Debbie, my wife, said, "Is that Skoo? Doesn't sound like him." And you don't connect the voice. At least I don't. Now maybe other
Oh,
people do. But
he gets his game face on.
he's got the 3x5 cards, and
He's zoned in. He's zoned in.
But he does like the cheerleader, and he calls the halftime show with the cheerleaders and the dance team and the band, all of which were great. He ends it, and Go Scouts, and Go Scouts.
What was he pushing? What were the specials at halftime?
Well, Duffers was in full force. I saw Jeff Urso there working very hard, cooking the brats and the hot dogs and the pizza. And
I wonder what happened with that, because it was the boosters were doing that to get them.
Well, the boosters have their own they have the little building, and they sell like the water and the drinks and candy and some other stuff. But then Urso does the cooking.
I think they boosted the boosters because they set fire to that thing like 3 years ago. I got to look that up. I got a picture with that.
Boosters. I bought drinks.
We're going to bring the professionals in. We got.
Well, they probably were happy to. It's a lot of like kids working in there, like a lot of high school kids. Like, it
needs a little more kerosene.
He wants some Coke. He wants a diet Coke.
Yeah.
It's kid. And look, the boosters, God bless them. I'm happy to buy stuff from them. And Jeff, I think there may be some formula that Jeff gives something to the school. I don't know what the arrangement is. Maybe we can have Jeff on to talk about it. But great time. And more importantly, the Scouts kicked butt in that game, man. They went through that first half. The Scouts offense went through Lakes, the Lakes Eagles was the other team.
What is the Lakes?
Okay, so my wife grew up in Lindenhurst, and when she grew up,
New Jersey?
No, Lindenhurst, Illinois, in Lake County, and she went to Antioch High School. Right? I won't say what year, but if she lived there now and her parents still live there, but if that area now goes to Lakes High School, that was built later on because of all the population growth up there, that they separated from Antioch High School and now have Lakes High School. I forget exactly where it is. We went to the Scouts had an away game there last year, and we went to it. So it's not that far a drive. But this year, this game, the Scouts offense went through the Lakes defense like a hot knife through butter. They just kept scoring and scoring and scoring. It was 28-0 at halftime. So the game was pretty much over in the first half. So they scored a little bit more, and then Lake scored a couple touchdowns late. But great game by the Scouts. Forgive me, I'm not John Kerr, so I don't have the in-depth analysis that he would have. But
it's the Lakes.
But these guys were great. The Scouts look great. They play, I think, Carmel. Is it Carmel next?
Yeah, Mundelein.
Yeah. Is it Mundelein or Carmel?
Well, Carmel's in Mundelein, isn't it?
Right, but there's also a Mundelein High School.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
well, okay, great. 1-0. Great job, and
that's a great job. You got to look. Go Scouts. Hey, Liberty won my school. My kid's school won big on Saturday.
Yeah, who did beat Harper?
Oakton, CLC. Hey, man, they were the power. They're predicted to make the playoffs, the 12-team playoffs. They look better than Florida State did, that's for sure. If you watch that game, oh my God!
Florida State Liberty. I wonder what happened in that game. Boston College nobody's watched Boston College in a football game since Doug Flutie played, but that was a good game the other night. Speaking of Boston College, hold on. You know who went to Boston College? Ryan Poles, GM Bears. Oh.
There you go. Did he play?
He was a right tackle. In fact, he got cut by the Bears. And 2008, 2007, 2008.
He said, I'm going to come back and fix that team and make it win. So,
well, they had the last episode of Hard Knocks on, so they go through the
that's it.
the Woes. Yeah, it's 4 episodes,
Oh,
4 or 5, I forget. But the last one's always where the Grim Reaper comes around and cuts everybody. They don't
yeah.
do that anymore. Where they tap the guy in the shoulder, "Hey, walk with me." That was so horrible. That
Don't
was
they go? I saw the one a few years ago. It wasn't Hard Knocks, but it was some other thing when uh when the Ravens, the coach before Harbaugh. So this is quite a few years ago.
it was the
Billick.
first Hard Knocks in 2000.
Yeah, and
Brian Billick.
he goes to their room. He knocks on the door of their room, and
Yeah.
and by the way, I need the playbooks back.
or the iPad. But the Lake Forest references were pretty nice. Forrester Hotel was getting a lot of love because that's where
Good.
all the guys that get cut stayed. Well, I don't know how many of them stayed there, but if you don't have money and the Bears are covering it, that's where you're going to go.
They go.
So they take the bicycle back and forth.
So that hotel built. I mean, I'm going to guess many years ago they stayed at the Deerpath because that hotel hadn't been built yet.
I don't know. Maybe they stayed in Vernon Hills. I have.
It's kind of, it's kind of, I mean, look, the Bears have a much better facility out there by the tollway than they did when they were playing at Lake Forest College. But there was something cool about back in the day. They played at Lake Forest College. They hung out at the Lantern and all the places, and probably stayed at the Deer Path, or people to see the Bears stayed at the Deer Path. So they're kind of, they're in Lake Forest, and you hear all the time, like you're listening to the score live from Lake Forest on the score. But it's all the way, it's literally the furthest west you can get in the city, pretty much. It's almost by the tollway out there. So I don't know how much connection there is to Lake Forest, other than it's great to have them. I know there's like 2 or 3 neighbors. I can hear the Bears practice from my house, when they do the music and stuff, and I'm all for it. I'm like, crank it up, guys. There's some people in the neighborhood that, they're very upset about the noise, and I'm like, come on, it's the Bears. It's the Chicago Bears. They can practice 24/7, as far as I'm concerned, outside. If it wins a Super Bowl, please let them practice all they want.
Speaking of Deerpath, shout out to FAHD, the best food beverage director in the
Yeah.
state area. FAHD, spelled FAHD.
What's your favorite item at the Deer Path to eat?
I think the favorite thing is waiting till they move that red barrister over to open up for the 4 o'clock seating at the bar, so everybody rushes to sit at the bar in front of the TV. I think that's my.
I've never been there for that moment. I'll have to try and check that out
Oh
sometime.
yeah, I'm an early day drinker done. Not check the box
And then
out.
you gotta get over to Denny's for the senior special.
And I'm out of there. Uh, so no, it was nice to see Hard Knocks, the Bears, Lake Forest.
Yeah,
They did they did the fly arounds with the cameras, and you could see,
you can
man,
see my house.
a Costco could have went right there.
Yeah. Instead, you saw the Lake Forest Municipal Building. So it was Jason Wicca waving at the camera, like, "Hi."
Well, they had one of the rookie quarterbacks got caught. Austin, I forget.
Oh yeah.
I would like to reach out to him. I like to practice guys. They make the practice team minimum and humble, grateful. That old man, his old man looks like a great dude, but who knows? However HBO wants to make it appear. Because right now everybody's fired up. Oh my, we're going to the Super Bowl. And you know what? You know what's going to happen first game. I've been a naysayer. Caleb,
Who do they play the first game this weekend? It's
no idea.
oh,
Zero.
come on, you gotta know.
Well, here, hold on. Fantasy football. That's what I know. And the Bears play.
I just got invited to a fantasy football league and I politely declined.
Oh, dude, you should have told me about it. I would have done the picks for
Oh,
you.
maybe he's still looking for somebody. My friend Paul. You met Paul at the menorah lighting.
Paul, how are you doing, man? Mazel
Yeah.
tov. We'll have a couple of Manischewitz together.
They play the Tennessee Titans
There we go.
at noon.
Well, they better beat them. They better beat down.
And that's at Soldier Field. And then next week they go to Soldiers, yeah. Then they play the Tennessee Titans in Houston, or not, excuse me, the Houston Texans in Houston. They play the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. Then the Colts, then the Rams, then the Panthers, Jaguars, Commanders. They don't play, their first divisional game isn't until November 17th against the Packers at Soldiers Field.
Well, they better light them up. They better light up the early goings. We'll see. I could be entirely wrong. HBO could be entirely right, the way they put everything together.
I mean, certainly there's a lot of buzz about Caleb Williams. I mean, he seems like a good dude. And
Rome Odunze.
Yeah.
So we'll see. God bless.
And Eberflus has a new look. He totally transformed his appearance.
Well,
beard and all that.
Yeah, that'll work. So in town, Joe, we had the city council meeting last night, and I guess we got some stuff going on. A water main going in January.
Well, that was a master class in, if you want to follow municipal government, go back and watch the video, the YouTube recording of that meeting.
We'll put it right here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Temp, members of the City Council. This evening, as the mayor has noted, we're going to provide an update to yourselves and the residents watching at home on the Deerpath Streetscape project. It's been long in the works since 2016. It's going to be a very big project. It's going to have a lot of impact on the city, but in the end, it's going to really beautify, upgrade Deerpath for these 2 or 3 blocks, make things a lot safer, especially for pedestrians. So we're excited to review that with you. Number one. Number two, we are not there yet. We don't have all the questions answered. We're going to be bidding this, or I should say the state's going to be bidding this project over the winter. We're still working through some of our logistics, so we'll be interested to hear your thoughts as well. This evening we'll go through a background of the project, the scope, schedule. We'll discuss the current budget that we're going to need to update, the detour options, and then Dana's going to step in and talk about the communications plan and how we're going to handle it from there. The project location, to begin with, we have the water main project. If you remember last month, we finished the water main across Green Bay Road. We're now going to take it all the way to Western Ave. That's going to happen in the winter months, February and March, 100% funded by the city. The second phase will be the streetscape project. That will be bid out by the state. They will oversee that. That right now is scheduled to begin once the water main contractor is moved out. They will move in April 1st to about October 10th. So project background, there's been, as I noted, a good amount of project background since 2016. Civic Beautification Committee began in 2016 to discuss this. In August of 2019, City Council went ahead and approved the Phase 1 design. Remember, as we apply for grants, we have to go through a Phase 1 design and a Phase 2. So we, City Council, approved that Phase 1 design. September of 2019, the city manager formed the Deerpath Streetscape Advisory Committee. Number of residents, aldermen, et cetera, were on that. The advisory committee finished their plans. It took them about a year or so, presented them to the various boards and commissions to include City Council. We went ahead and submitted an application for an ITEP grant through IDOT in October of 2020. As we noted before, it's a big process to put together a grant application. We went through that. We were notified in June of 21 that we did not receive that. However, we followed up with ITEP and IDOT and basically said, how can we make our application better? What do we need to do? And they gave us some pointers, which primarily was to get Phase 2 design completed. So we went ahead, funded that, went into Phase 2, and then resubmitted in October of 2022, and then in August of 2023. For that round, we heard that we were successful and the city received just over $2 million in grant for the project. As I noted, the Deerpath Streetscape Advisory Committee Chairman Prue Byler, Alderman Byler chaired the committee. Alderman Rummel was on it as well. This is one of many sessions that we had here at City Hall, and we walked the route multiple times. I'll let you read through the list, but the three primary and really the three drivers of this project, we want to increase the beautification. Right now, as you'll see, it's nothing but concrete and asphalt. So we want to make it much nicer. We've got old infrastructure. As we noted, we've got water mains that are 100 years old. The electrical infrastructure is very old. And then finally, improve pedestrian safety. As you can imagine, with all the vehicles, and we've all experienced it with kids running across the street, we're going to add some features on Deerpath to slow traffic down, but really to increase that pedestrian safety so vehicles can see people very early on before they cross. Again, existing conditions, as I had noted, nothing but concrete and asphalt, but then we turn to a rendering that we received about a week ago that gives us a little more specifics on exactly what we're looking at. On the west side, on the left side, is Oakwood Avenue. In Oakwood, we're going to, as well as Western, improve the crosswalks. So we're going to put concrete pavers as the perimeter. That's also a traffic calming device. You know when you're coming into something rather than just striped lines when you have brick pavers. We'll improve the sight lines with these pedestrian bump outs that we refer to them. There will be new sidewalks throughout this corridor, new concrete sidewalks. The masonry wall, so we've got the masonry wall right out here outside of City Hall. We're going to copy and do something very similar across the street in front of the orthodontist and the dermatologist. You'll see that grade change across the street. That's primarily a ComEd vault, ComEd line. Could we move it? We could. It would cost us an arm and a leg. So we're going to deal with it. We're going to put an architectural feature there with this wall to make it look much more aesthetically pleasing. As I noted, the various bump outs that we'll be doing, the landscape bump outs, we'll be irrigating those as well. Chuck and his team in Parks and Forestry are working on the different species that will be planted, but they've played an integral part of it. The street lighting, we're going to improve street lighting along that corridor as well, but we're going to try and we're going to keep our traditional street lights that we have. So we're not going to, for example, we're not going to put the ones that you see on Waukegan Road, the big, tall, big poles. We're still going to keep that same character light pole that we've always used. I noted the irrigation system as well throughout all these planting beds, and then once everything is done, we will go ahead and resurface Deerpath. That is what Deerpath looks like now, and this is what we envision Deerpath to look like. So again, with those bump outs on the corners, and we will be eliminating a few spaces, but again, the whole purpose is to slow that traffic down and to give those pedestrians, kids after school, et cetera, more sight lines so everybody sees one another. Project schedule, as I had noted, we have got plans, phase 2 plans are due to IDOT at the end of this month. One of the reasons we're coming to you, we're going to talk about phasing. And with the IDOT plans, this is sort of our last chance if we want to put anything in the specification that IDOT will either approve or deny. This is our last chance to make those notes before they go through their whole process, put the project out to bid for a January bid opening. We've got different things that we've got right-of-way certification that is common with all IDOT projects. We've got to confirm that we actually have those, which we do. As I noted, we are going to be bidding out the water main project ourselves, so we're going to be receiving those plans soon. And then we will, like any other one of our projects, we'll put that project out to bid. City water funds will pay for that entirely. We will oversee it. We will manage it. The IDOT bid construction, their bid opening is January 17th. As I noted, the water main will begin in February. Streetscape begins in April. And right now, our estimate is to have construction done October 10th. So the next chart reviews our current budget numbers. And the reason we say current is that since 2016, every year we go through and we relook at these numbers at this time. Our capital plan is due to Jason and Elizabeth here mid-October. So this is yet another opportunity for us to go through all of our numbers, and if there are numbers that need to be increased, either on the water main or the streetscape, this is the time where we do it. The grant is a fixed amount, period. So it's $2,065,000. Anything above that, the city's dime out of the city's capital fund. Again, same goes for the water main. We're paying for that 100%. So the estimate on both the water main and the streetscape project is approximately 4.7. And as I noted, we will be reviewing those numbers over the next 30 days and making any adjustments in our budget requests that you will see in November. So we want to assure the community that we have done this before. Myself and a few others remember Western Ave streetscape back in 2008, 2007, when we went ahead and redid Western Ave from Laurel all the way up to Westminster. That actually impacted many, many more stores and businesses than this will. They had constant access to the businesses. There's wood structures, wood ramps to the businesses. But it was challenging, but we in the community we got through it. And then obviously Market Square 2000, if you remember that. We had a good amount of infrastructure that we needed to put in within Market Square, as well as all the brick pavers. So again, that really impacted the stores in that area. Recently, obviously, the Deerpath 41 pump station, and then the Burr Oak storm sewer improvements. So the big projects compared to just doing a water main on one block, we've been through this before, and with Dana's help and help from all the departments, quite frankly, because this is really going to be a citywide effort. We're all talking about it, and we're all going to continue to talk about it bi-weekly from now until the project begins. So one of the big issues becomes detours. And the water main replacement, as we have put the plans together so far, we're going to be looking to replace the water main from Western to Green Bay on the westbound lane. So westbound Deerpath and the parking spots on westbound Deerpath, that is where the water main will go. And if you can picture an excavator, he's got to have a semi-truck sitting right next to him as they load and simply make their way west, installing pipe. We're going to maintain eastbound traffic. So again, for the months of February and March, when we put this water main in, eastbound traffic from Green Bay to Western will be open. The parking spots will not, because we got to move ourselves over a little bit westbound to give ourselves enough room. But the eastbound lanes will be open for that 2-month period. Drivers can obviously take Illinois and Westminster as well if they so choose, going eastbound. Westbound, they will need to take Westminster or Illinois or Western down to Wesley. So when we get to the streetscape, this is where the discussion comes in with City Council. We have 2 options, and we've reviewed these options last week with our mayor and Chairman Gosh Gehring of the Public Works Committee. Do we approach this project, as our city manager refers to as ripping the Band-Aid off, which staff prefers, of closing this area from Oakwood to Western Avenue, let all the equipment and materials stage in that area, and get this work knocked out? It's option 1. That's what we're going to be recommending. Option 2, as you're going to see, is if we do it in 2 phases. We take Oakwood to Bank, or actually we flip it. We go Western to Bank, first phase, and then second phase would be Bank to Oakwood. So right now with the detours, as we had noted, local traffic will head down Illinois and Westminster. So if we go by, and we're talking about phasing this now, this detour is if we were to phase. The first phase would include the red area on Deerpath. That's the area where we would be working. We would also, and you can see we've blocked off part of Bank Lane. Why? It's the only way you can access Bank Lane currently. So that area would be impacted as well. Forest, heading northbound on Forest and heading north and southbound on Oakwood, would still remain open. But that area east of Bank Lane would be completely closed. So that would be phase one or stage one. When we flip and get stage one done, if that's the preference, we'll then do the western half of the project, and we'll go from Bank Lane to Oakwood. We will use part of Forest as well. That's why you see that part marked off. Excuse me. And again, all the traffic is going to be routing around Illinois and Westminster. On both of these, as well as the full closure, we are going to send the trucks down to Wesley. Here's why. Illinois has got the height restriction on the railroad bridge. Majority of the trucks cannot get under that, number one. Number two, if we were to send the trucks down Westminster to cross over Westminster, we think eastbound they're going to be idling a good amount, number one. Number two, to get them back uptown, they'd have to take Wesley to Sheridan and come on back up Westminster, which we think is probably not a good idea for all the residents living on Westminster. So truck traffic is going to be a challenge. The way we're going to address that is we're going to try and keep Western and Deerpath, that intersection, open for north-south traffic. That is the goal. The engineers have said that it will take approximately an additional week. We had this pegged at October 3rd completion. We're now looking at October 10th because we're going to try and keep Western open north and southbound, and we'll just have to adjust from the west side to the east side. When we get the crosswalk completed on the west side of the intersection, we'll switch it to the east, and then traffic will go northbound and southbound. This is all part of the planning process, and this is when we realized all the Jewel and Fresh Market and Lantern and Walgreens deliveries, they're not coming in small little trucks, they're coming in semis. And those semis have got to go down Wesley, they got to go down Western. We don't think we can put them on Westminster. So that is what we're going to be recommending. So then the full streetscape closure, again, is this entire area from the west side of Oakwood to, we'll call it the western side of Western, and then again we'll flip it. But again, the trucks would make their way down Wesley to Western Ave. So the options, and again, this is, as I had noted previously, this is the discussion point of should we proceed with a full closure, or should we do it in two phases? Working with our design engineer, the design engineer said, you can put it in these two phases, but it's going to take you about a month and a half more, and you'll pay about another 5 to 10% increase in cost. The reason that is we've got all the contractors, concrete, mason, irrigation, electrical, all the different subs that if we pull them in for phase one, they leave, and then they turn around when their turn comes up in phase two. It's what we refer to as a remobilization cost. They turn around and say, well, we're going to charge you a remob cost because we got to bring our trucks back in and our guys back in and our material back in. So it is less expensive, A, and B, much more efficient for us to close that down and really work hard with the contractor to get the work done. The important point on all of this is that we're going to maintain the business, the entry to the businesses. Dana's going to show you a couple things that we've done in the past and other towns have done. But businesses are going to be open. We are going to be talking with and working with the businesses on different things we can do to encourage people to still patronize and go to these places. So that really comes down to, that really is the discussion topic. So from there, I'm going to let Dana take it and talk about communication outreach that she and her team have planned for this project.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council. As Director Thomas was saying, there's a lot within this project that we can't control. We need to close down the street in order to get that beautiful streetscape. But what we can control is how we talk to people about it and how we can minimize impacts for the impacted stakeholders. And so, as Mike Thomas was saying, pedestrian and business access will be maintained throughout the whole project, and that actually adds to the project duration. In the pictures here, you can see that there's the wooden ramps that are providing access to the businesses, and you'll see there's a lot of activity happening under those ramps. So were we to close everything down and just do the project, it would be a shorter duration. We would never do that because we need to maintain access to the businesses and also have pedestrian access through the corridor. And so that will maintain throughout the project. We'll also have frequent communications with the impacted stakeholders, with the businesses, and with the community, with customers, to provide updates on the status of the work, how things are going. And also one thing that will help with that is having a dedicated on-site project engineer who will be there if there are issues that arise. They'll be on-site and able to resolve those quickly and ensure that the project moves along smoothly. So for our general communications and outreach, we would have dedicated project updates, similar to some of the other projects that Mike mentioned with the Burke Storm Sewer Project and the Deerpath 41 project. We had a dedicated web page. We would have that again with the option for people to sign up for regular text and email alerts as the project moves forward. And we would share notifications across our digital and print platforms. And we'll focus on making sure people know what to expect if they come to the area, sharing those detour routes, having good signage in the area, but also leaning into what a good project this is going to be. And we know that it's going to be impactful while it's happening, but we want to focus on how it's going to improve pedestrian safety, increase the beautification in that corridor, and provide an opportunity to enhance the infrastructure. And so on the slide here, there's a couple examples of of signs directing people to through a construction area, and we would have something similar, making sure that people know where to go, and also making it clear where parking is available, since there will be some parking that is removed while the project is happening, and so we want to make sure people know where to park to frequent the businesses in that area. And it's early in the process. We're 5 months from when the water main project will start. So we have ideas of things that we can do to help minimize impacts. We'll continue to come up with creative solutions. And one of the ideas that we've come up with so far is converting the lot that's on the corner, the southeast corner of Western and Deerpath, converting that, which is now currently a bus turnaround, converting that into a parking lot so that people will have access to the area, easy access there. But and also the other parking lots on the west side of the tracks, the city lots, making those available for people to park in. And again, we're brainstorming ideas, and we have some to share, but we also want to work with the businesses to come up with what they need, and meet with the businesses to see what their needs are and ensure that we can minimize the impacts to their day-to-day operations. And then also find ways to talk to the community about it. So we'll talk with the businesses, but also find opportunities to ask the community, like, what would help make it easier for you to come to this area during construction, and ask the people, our users and our customers and our residents, what we can do to make it easier for them. And so in terms of our next steps, talking about things tonight kind of kicks it off, and then we'll be doing our business outreach, and we'll offer one-on-one meetings with businesses where we'll come with some representatives from the project team, have our project in the box, as I'm calling it, where we can explain what's going to happen and gather information from them on their deliveries or access issues, and make sure that we can come up with a customized plan to get them to minimize impacts as much as possible. And then that will lead into our community education component, where we talk about the project across our various channels and start doing that soon, talking about it early and often. So we can't change the fact that there needs to be some closures, but we can help people know what to expect and know where they can park, where they can go if they're moving through the area. And we do have plans to have a dialogue cover story on the project in the winter in December. And we know from our community survey data that the dialogue is one of the top ways that our residents get information about what's happening in the city. So we want to make sure we include it on that channel and across our other channels. Pass it back to Joe Weiss.
The final slide. The key takeaways. First and foremost, we wanted again to restate that this has been a community outreach since 2016. We've had a lot of input as to what people would like to see on Deerpath. We've had a lot of different people evaluate it, different boards and commissions internally, boards that Kathy works with. So there's been a lot of thought that has gone into that. The road closures are going to be impactful, and we're working hard to try and work with these detours as best we can to think how we can efficiently move traffic as best we can. And then obviously we're going to work as best we can to minimize impact to the residents. That's our number one goal, obviously. So with that, we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Thomas, Director Olson. All right, first hand I saw, let's go.
Mike, can you go back to that slide where it shows the street closures in phase 1 and phase 2? I just want to understand what's happening on Western Avenue in all of this.
On all of these, Western Ave north southbound is going to remain open.
So there will be traffic.
It's going to be tight, but we're going to have two-way traffic on Western Ave, whether we do this in 2 stages,
right,
or whether we do it in one big, close the whole thing down. North and southbound Western Ave is going to remain open.
So no matter what,
no
people
matter
are going
what,
to be
we're
able
going to
to
figure
drive.
out a way to do it, because deliveries to all these
Right.
businesses, there's no way semis can make that turn on Westminster if they
Right.
come over the tracks and have got to take a right and go to Jewel. That intersection isn't big enough to handle
So-
those semis.
So where this red line goes to Western Avenue, that's to the end of Deerpath, not into Western, or does it tip in a little?
It goes into Western Ave, because right now as we start off, we will have the east side of that intersection be the north-south. But at some point, we're going to flip it. We're going to have that portion done,
Right.
and then we'll work on the western side of that intersection.
So then as people come down Deerpath from the east side of town and they get to Western Avenue, they'll be able to turn north or south
Correct.
and then pick up the green,
Correct.
other ways to go. Okay.
Yes.
And Bank Lane's going to become a two-way street again? When we flip
no.
to that side?
No, we, Bank Lane from Illinois, we will take the one-way, we're going to readjust it back to people allowed to go northbound, northbound
So-
on Bank Lane. So they'll be able to get up to the Pasquesi building, the bank, and to be able to turn around.
Up to that, so they'll be able to pull into the Northern Trust parking lot or the
Yes.
Midwest Bank? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So in terms of accessing those businesses, they'll be able to go from either direction?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Alderman Clance.
When it's over,
Was
it's
that it?
gonna go back to one
Yeah,
lane.
that's it. Thanks.
Heading
I
south.
believe so.
I don't know if we know the answer to that yet. Kathy? you
Pete, say
wanna-
your question again, I didn't catch it.
When the project, well, it's one lane, it was temporarily set up as one lane going south. On a couple of your slides, it's going north-south.
During
So the
construction.
question is it gonna go back to one lane heading south when all the projects are done?
And I can jump in to say we don't definitively know the answer to that. Subsequent to this presentation, Kathy Czerniak is giving a presentation on the Bank Lane streetscape enhancements, the planning and design process, which is currently underway. I'll ask her to address that question when she's up in a few minutes.
Is that it, Alderman Clemens? All right, Alderman Walter.
Thank you. Director Thomas, when they do the water main work between Green Bay Road and Oakwood, you're gonna open up the street and then you're gonna repave that, patch it. Will we repave the entire width of that street between Green Bay and Oakwood to make it a nice, smooth, uniform blacktop all the way then, once the streetscape's completed from
Yes.
Green Bay to
So
train tracks?
the resurfacing, in the end, September timeframe, we will resurface Deerpath from Green Bay to Western. Yes, I will say during the months of February and March into April, when Baker is not open and they are not making asphalt, we use a product called Cold Patch, and it sinks a lot. We'll have the contractor coming back to put more material in. But as soon as we can get a better patch done when Baker is cooking, then we'll put a better patch in, and then yes, the whole thing will be resurfaced.
All right, thank you. You're looking for input from the council specific to items that should be included in the specifications, because you need that by the end of this month. So some things to consider is a very aggressive dust control program,
Okay.
as well as potentially a program, and washing the windows of the businesses to clean them and keep them clean throughout the project. I was recently in Naperville, and they had a similar project going on, and it was, my wife and I were like, I left that downtown just feeling dirty. So we need an aggressive dust mitigation program, water frequently put on the streets, whatever the case may be, but please read those specifications.
Sure.
Make sure it's thorough.
Yep.
With regards to signage, obviously the contractor will be taking control of signage for any traffic control signs, but I might encourage the city to take control of signage for pedestrian traffic, particularly with regards to how pedestrians get to and from businesses. The reason I say that is I think the city can be more responsive, quicker to respond to our business needs, our businesses who want to make sure their signs don't get knocked over, they're kept clean, they're visible. I think we could be more responsive than the contractor.
Sure.
For pedestrian
idea.
signage. Just something to contemplate. You mentioned creative solutions, Dana. I noticed you created parking spaces, potentially using the Metro lot, but what about approaching businesses within the area that have parking that's not always utilized? The two banks that are at the corner of Deerpath and Bank Lane, they're not always using their parking spaces. Can we encourage them to share some of their excess parking, and then appropriately sign it so that people could park there to get a haircut or to get an ice cream cone and not feel like they're gonna get towed? So that might be a creative opportunity.
And I'll just note on that point, we have discussed that internally, and I think it's something we'll explore with those property owners in the coming months.
Oh, very good. And then, in terms of community outreach, another opportunity for you, Dana, maybe to include would be asking one of the businesses that currently is a business within the area that's unoccupied. We could put up a display in their windows with renderings of what's to happen. You could have sidewalk displays in the months leading up to the event, where you and your team are on the sidewalk with signage out in front of Starbucks, out in front of Sweets, around the neighborhood, to show people as they're walking through the community what's going to be coming and what's going to be happening. So some ideas for you.
Great ideas, Rich. Yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Weber?
Thank you. I had a great presentation. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on that. In terms of feedback for the road closure, my preference would be closing it all at one time, getting it done quicker. Because we're asking people, truck traffic and parking is going to be limited, and people will be avoiding the area. So the shorter amount of time that we can ask people to deal with the inconvenience and the business owners, the better. With that, a couple of things. Being on civic beautification the last few years, this project was really done before I came onto the council at that level. But a couple of things we saw with Chuck Myers had shared with us these renderings with the trees, and there were some comments that were brought up about species selection and about the maintenance and pruning. We have a very lean city staff in all of our departments. They're excellent workers. They are very responsive, but the fact remains when we have species that are going to need to be pruned to keep away from basically growing into the businesses, to the buildings, I think that really needs to be looked at. Another thought I had was in regards to the paver crosswalk maintenance. I frequently am walking in town, particularly at Western and Illinois, and those pavers are not even. And when you're pushing strollers and you've got kids on bikes and scooters, although they should be walking once they cross the street, or if you've got anybody in high heels that are headed to a fancy restaurant, it's difficult to walk on those. So I just want us to really be conscious about what the maintenance level is going to be required from our staff and our teams to keep it flush and even. Because as you mentioned, we have a lot of truck traffic that comes down through those roads, and over time, how things sink and crumble and move, even right outside of Walgreens right now. It's not even. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was, we know parking is going to be a challenge, and one of the things that I had mentioned with Chief Burke and our opportunity to speak with him prior to his appointment tonight was about parking enforcement. And with business employees, for very convenient reasons, park right near the businesses that they are working at. And how do we handle parking enforcement for that to really ensure that the customers can get where they need to go? I'm just envisioning people walking 2 blocks with armloads of packages to get to the UPS store, and how are they going to get the packages out? How is the garbage going to be emptied out of Bank Lane, out of those dumpsters? So I know you're working hard on it, but those are some of the things that we need to have communicated to the business owners and to the residents and customers. How can they get there? How can they do it efficiently? Will there be carts? I don't know. Will we have a couple of carts in a parking lot like the Jewel, and so people can wheel their stuff? I know you're going to do it top notch however you do it, and we're excited about the outcome. But those are just a couple of thoughts I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Weber. Yeah, John, just before we come back. Go ahead.
With the ramps, are they from the middle of the street into each of the store? I don't understand logistically how these ramps operate, or where you get them, or where you cross into, or any of it.
Depending upon how within that area it is being staged and phased. So I would envision, excuse me, for example, if we think of the businesses, Sweets, UPS, Fred's, taking it from the curb edge all the way up to the front door when we are doing, obviously, the concrete work. But we've got to work with the business, because there's got to be a point in time where we've got to pour in front of them, and we've got to let it cure. But the ramp will allow us to get underground work done in that area, and people still being able to access those businesses.
Okay, so is the ramp from the middle of the street then?
No, from the curb edge, not from the middle of the street. I would think from the edge of curb across the sidewalk area to the business. Depending again on, we're not sure of the phasing yet within the actual construction, but we're assuming that they're going to be working on all the utilities. They're going to want to excavate, they're going to work on the utilities, then the concrete's going to come in.
The street itself is closed.
Correct.
And torn up, and nobody's stepping foot on Deerpath Road.
We will have all the equipment and material, yes.
All along the sidewalk.
All the equipment and material is going to be staged on Deerpath.
Okay.
The employees that are there, the construction workers, are going to be parking there on Deerpath.
So I want to get from Walgreens to the UPS store.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come out of Walgreens and I'm walking along a non-existent sidewalk?
You'll be, we're only going to, I didn't say this correctly, we're only going to tear it out when we're ready to put it back in. So in other words, we're not going to tear it out and let it sit for 4 months. But if we're on the concrete phase of getting utilities underneath there, or if there are none, simply pulling out the sidewalk and putting in, then yes, you're gonna have to walk out in the street. None of us envision that they're gonna come in, tear out the sidewalk, and there's gonna be nothing there for 4 months. But again, project hasn't been bid. We usually have a very large pre-construction meeting with IDOT and the contractors, and we get into those details to say, how do we approach this?
Okay, I just didn't get it from the picture. I didn't understand the logistics of how this was going to work.
Right, right.
All right.
Yes, Pete?
Well, if you look at the picture, it looks like it's going from the curb on one side of the street to the curb on the other side of the street. Is that what's happening?
I'm not sure where we pulled
I think
those
that's just an
pictures.
Yeah, I think it's
That's
just an example.
What a walk would
Illustrative,
look like,
just
yeah.
an example of what it could look like. It's not.
We're really showing a wood ramp that's crossing an uneven area that provides access to the business. So,
What's the guy standing on that's taking the picture in the bottom picture? Is he on the sidewalk on the other side of the street?
Keep in mind, that's just an illustration of,
Yeah, and I think, you know, the point I would emphasize again, that knowing that this project is still 6 months away, we acknowledge that there are still a lot of questions that we need to navigate. We don't have all the answers here tonight. This is all really great feedback for staff to consider as we're working with the successful contractor, all things that will get worked out in time. It's, again, a little unusual that we would be before the council on a construction project 6-7 months before the project's scheduled to begin. But because of that, some of these questions we just don't have the answers to tonight. But I will just emphasize, as Mike and Dana have said, that staff's motivation in this will be minimizing the impact, adverse impact to the business community, and maximizing accessibility for residents and patrons to the extent we can.
Director Thomas, a couple questions. Toward the point of minimizing the impact, particularly on the businesses between Bank Lane and Western Avenue, the phased approach would increase our overall timeline from 6 months to 7.5. But if we looked at doing the Bank Lane to Western Avenue section in 1 month, or in one phase, are we now talking those businesses are only impacted for 3 to 3.5 months instead of 6 to 6.5 months?
Would they be opened back up? Yes, we will not have the final asphalt in by any means, and I highly doubt we're going to have the parallel parking in. You know, we're going to have to come in with the different layers of asphalt to build the road back up. We do that one time. We're not going to bring in. We want a solid seam from Western to Green Bay, but yes, that would be the idea if you were to phase it. But again, more cost, more time.
Right, but I believe I'm sold on the get it done route, but I want to be factually correct that if we phased it, the disruption to the stores would be shortened. While the work might not be done, their overall disruption could be shortened from 6 to 3 to 3.5 months. Is that
Fair statement? Yes, I would think so. I would think so. Again, not knowing yet how the contractor is going to want to phase this. We talk about this constantly, and we have in our mind how we think they are going to want to do it. But specifically to answer your question, if we were to break it in, could these other businesses be open and not have that significant impact? Yes. I will say, though, one of the issues that I forgot to note is if we go into 2 phases, all this material and equipment is going to have to find a home, right? If we take this area Western to Oakwood, we've got enough laydown area for equipment, materials for the workers to park. If we simply say we're going to leave Bank to Oakwood open, and we're going to work on the eastern half first, we're, I think, going to have to go into this Oakwood lot across the street to start staging and putting some of this material and equipment. from an efficiency standpoint, they're going to want to order as much stuff as they can and get it on site all at once and bring their equipment. So I think that part of that Oakwood lot may come into play.
I appreciate you. Just,
Yeah.
it was that question that, the unasked question. Two more questions. The other, we talked about allowing pedestrians to get across Bank Lane, across Deerpath at Bank Lane. So it's not just accessing from a sidewalk to a storefront, but like if they were let's, for argument's sake, they were parking at the Northern Trust parking lot and wanted to go to Suites. Mm-hmm. Are you envisioning that some sort of ramp structure would be created that would allow someone to access the north Deerpath side businesses from the south?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Part of the reason this is, in my opinion, taking longer is that we're going to be doing as much as we can to keep those businesses open and to really maintain as easy access as we can, versus if we were to come in on a stormwater project and just start tearing up the road, and we're starting at one end, we're staging materials, and we're just going. And we'll maintain access for residents' driveways, but that's done by a steel plate. Or we're gonna backfill some CA6 overnight, but we're going. This takes some time, and that's what's going to slow this down, is that we're really trying to make that extra effort to keep those businesses viable and to keep having people continue to come and use those businesses. That slows some things down. When there are people walking across the street and walking up and down the block, and you've got a skid steer, you got a backhoe, you got semis, you got cement mixers, you've got end loaders, safety is number one. And that slows things down a little bit. But that's the way it has to be. So.
My last question is, again, toward the end of doing whatever we can for these businesses and maximizing whatever visibility they have from across the street. And where my concern is you've got construction activity happening right next to the sidewalks. And obviously there's a balance, making sure that someone walking along the sidewalk is not accidentally falling into a trench being dug for the water main.
Right.
So as you're thinking through whether it's fencing or solid, whatever, just that it's low enough to solve whatever safety concerns we have, but not so high that you're now blocking view lines to storefronts.
Sure.
Just
Sure.
to have that in mind.
Yep. No, it's a good point. And again, we want to maintain safe access to these businesses. So that, again, that's going to be the primary focus, and obviously keeping this job site safe. But that slows things down. It's not a bad thing, but that's the world of construction. The guy's constantly looking over his shoulder, running an end loader or a skid steer. He's going to have to in this project, and that slows things down. But the fact for the businesses, yes, we're going to make sure that those businesses are completely accessible and that it is safe to get in and out, and the contractors are going to know full well that they need to stop and let people go in and out to these places.
Thank you.
Stores.
I'm so sorry.
I'm
I'm so sorry, I have one more. Do you have a slide of what the total closure looks like? Not the phases, but just, that's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we'd be living with for the
April 1st to October.
October 10th.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And again, sending trucks down Green Bay to Wesley to Western.
Right. I just wanted to see the total impact in one piece. Thank you.
You know, and one of the other
questions?
things that we're gonna, Matt Bergioni, our street supervisor, is here with us this evening. One of the things Matt is gonna be working on will be the coordination of all these streetlights. So Deerpath and Green Bay and Wesley and Green Bay, they are our stoplights. Illinois and Western, it's our stoplight. And we'll work with our contractor to adjust timing if need be, because we're gonna have to observe this when St. Mary's gets out, when Country Day gets out, when the middle school gets out. And in addition to that, cars are heading eastbound on Deerpath. We've got to see how the traffic lights are working, and we're going to need to adjust those as well. So,
Are you going to do anything for people making a left turn on Westminster onto South Green Bay Road?
left on Westminster to go south, haven't gotten there yet. I mean, you're right. If we're sending vehicles, cars up to Westminster, not all of them are going to take a right on Westminster, and it'll be a bear getting out onto Green Bay. Right, right. Yes.
Director Thomas, next steps for City Council, or Jason, is this, you're looking for guidance from us this evening, or this is just a conversation?
Ideally, if there is a consensus, it would be helpful to have that this evening. I know we need to provide feedback to IDOT by the end of the month. So if there's more information that we're needed, we could come back on the 16th, but I'll leave that up to you. As Director Thomas said, we did meet with Mayor Tack and Public Works Chair Garian last week. They were both in support of the full closure and getting the project done as quickly as possible for whatever that's worth. But again, we're here to answer questions and get your feedback, and it's ultimately up to your comfort level on providing direction tonight or not.
Is that a show of hands?
Yeah, it's not, no formal vote is required. I think just kind of perhaps, individually sharing your opinion, I know several already have, is sufficient in this case.
Well, I'll jump in real quick. I think the city has substantial experience in this space, and it's proven to be efficient and effective. Although it's always disruptive to the community, I think the best thing to do is shut the whole thing down, get the project done the right way, as efficiently as possible and as safe as possible, and go from there. Because we're all going to love it when it's done. We're not going to necessarily love it during the process, but there's so much work that's gone on to the end of this that I think it's going to be fantastic once we complete it. So thanks for the presentation.
I'm hearing that we're all supportive of the Band-Aid, pull the Band-Aid off and run. Am I hearing differently from anyone?
No, I just add one other point. I think Director Thomas pointed out that we will be providing construction oversight. Is that correct?
We will be hiring, well, it's going to be a duo. We will, because it's a grant and an IDOT project, we will be hiring a Phase 3 construction engineer who will be managing the overall inspections, coordinated with us.
Yeah.
And they will actually manage all the IDOT paperwork as well. But we're going to have our engineering staff right next to the Phase 3 engineer. So you're going to have a lot of eyes on it. Dana's team, we're going to have people all over it.
So I think with that being said, I think the city has an opportunity to be a very vocal spokesman during the course of construction. So if they see an opportunity, let's say as an example, that the sidewalk between Oakwood and Bank Lane in front of the orthodontist is near being done, they could encourage the contractor, hey, finish that section up as quick as you can, open it up so that we can, relieve the stress on those businesses. And so I think we can find opportunities to do that. That being said, I would be in favor of the do it all at once approach.
All right.
Rest assured, we very well know, and we are going to be pushing as hard as we can to get this done as quickly as we can. So we know you know that, we've done it, but this one's going to be fun. So thank you for all your input. We appreciate your ideas.
Appreciate it. I'd like to say the work's only just begun, but that would be understating and overstating both.
I went to it, though I got there late. I didn't get there till about 7. But so I missed the swearing in of the new police chief, though I went back and watched it. Unfortunately, if you watch it, they don't have a mic on him. So I'm sure he gave some very eloquent remarks to the crowd, but nobody at home could hear it because there was no mic.
You know what? I'll fix it. I'll
blow it up.
I'll put it right here so you can hear it. Okay.
Chief Burke, welcome aboard. If you'd please come up to the front.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. I, John Burke,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the constitutions of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Illinois,
and the state of Illinois,
and will diligently enforce the laws of the state of Illinois
and will diligently enforce the laws of the state of Illinois
and the city of Lake Forest,
and the city of Lake Forest,
and that I will faithfully execute the duties of
and I will faithfully execute the duties of
city marshal,
city marshal,
collector,
collector,
and chief of police
and chief of police
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
If I could just say one quick thing. Thank you to all my new teammates and coworkers who came here to see me tonight, and my former coworkers with Micah's in Barrington. It means a lot to me. My friends and family are here to share this moment with me, and I would like to thank Mayor Tack and the City Council and Jason Witcher for giving me the opportunity to take this position in such a great city and a great community. Thank you.
Okay.
But there were a lot of police officers from other cities there. Like I saw, if you look in the video, there's a guy with a Chicago police uniform on. And when I got there late, there was a guy, a gentleman from the Riverside Police Department outside because he was there to see, he told me he's there to see the swearing in of his friend. So very excited about our new chief.
Well, he's got a hell of a coaching tree. He's been around. Where'd he come from? Barrington?
Barrington, right.
Yeah. So he knows how to deal with snotty, stuck-up kids. We'll edit that on post.
Yeah, there is a little synergy between Barrington and Lake Forest. But yeah, no, and you know, he's going to do a couple meet and greets in town here, so everybody can go meet the chief and, you know, have coffee with him or.
Well,
now
question. I mean, I don't know what the maybe he's got more experience, but we didn't have enough experienced guys to promote from within.
I can't speak to that. I'm
not asking you to. I'm just, you know.
I'm not, you know, look, I love the cops. I have a lot of friends that I grew up with that are cops. Unfortunately, one that was killed in the line of duty in Chicago, Thor Soderbergh. But I don't know the method, the background on that. But look, we've got a good police force, and I'm sure we're going to continue to have a good
Well
police
said, Joe. Well said.
And we'll have a good state's attorney.
Yeah, that sign will do it. That sign on this podcast.
How about your sign? How about the sign? Where's the sign in your yard on Granby?
The sign. It keeps.
Did you see the picture online of the? And I know parades don't vote, but on Labor Day there was a parade in Zion.
Yeah.
And Mary had like 50 people, all ages, all races. Really exciting crowd. Reinhardt had like 3 people, and they looked really dopey, like carrying, yeah, I have to carry this Reinhardt sign.
Dude, I hope Mary wins. I do.
Oh.
The fact we're still in Illinois.
His only hope is he is going to link himself to Kamala Harris any way he can. He's probably going to do, if he can't get her to do a robocall into Lake County, he'll do an AI robocall of her calling in.
It doesn't matter. Just look what they did with Kamala. Can you imagine? Joe Biden took one in the back of the head.
Hey, no, don't say it that way. The Secret Service is going to pay a visit to you.
Whatever. He's on the beach. What was that movie? They're dragging a dead body around those 2 kids.
A Weekend at Bernie's? It's just.
I mean,
he's in bad
nothing
shape.
Surprises me, but the way that stuff.
But they all defend up until that debate on June 27th. The only reason I remember that date is that's also my wife's birthday.
Happy birthday,
Please remember that next year.
Yes.
But they had they were all defending him. Oh, he's fine. He's fine. I look at him every day. I see him every
But
day.
it doesn't matter. So what?
Oh, he's fine. He's fine. He's fine. It's just they are so look, and I am. You've heard my 2 cents on what I think of Donald Trump, but
Joe,
they are so zealous to get rid of Donald Trump. They'll say or do anything.
that's correct.
Do it. Now, again, we live
Yes,
in.
I know when.
We live in Illinois. We are not a swing state. Your vote for president, while it's always important to vote, means nothing to the outcome of the election in the Electoral College. But that vote does matter. But it's just.
You know what matters, Joe? The machine. The machine.
Voting machine? You mean the machine
The-
that you use?
the
to
machine.
capture vote? Or
No.
you mean the old time Democratic machine?
The machine. So
Is it
It
really
happened in 2016?
Is it just the majority of voters now tend to vote that way? I don't know.
anywho, city, let's get back to Lake Forest. So Deerpath, what are they going to do? They're going to tear.
Oh man, it's gonna be a mess. Be nice when it's all done. It's gonna be a mess going next year.
Well, it's January, February, so our businesses.
Yeah, but then the real stuff starts April 1st and goes till I think it was October. April Fools. I mean, look, no one likes construction, right? We've all lived through some construction project that we're cursing and screaming about. But then when it's all done, it's like, man, this is pretty nice.
No, I get it, but it doesn't matter when you're walking over that wooden plank to
Oh,
get.
yeah, that's you're gonna walk.
You gotta walk the plank to get one of those bagels.
Well, I hope people, look, construction is always difficult for a local business, right? So I hope people keep that in mind and support local businesses here. God bless Starbucks and the investment they made in Lake Forest, but that money goes to Seattle. When you spend money at Starbucks, it goes to Seattle. All right. Now, I'm sure they employ some nice local folks in the store and everything, but
they can take their coffee and their policies.
Go to Once Upon a Bagel, go to Hometown, go to Gerhard's.
Yeah. Hey, Mary, 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years. God bless her.
Come on the dang show, Mary.
And the Tribune or whatever it's called, did a very nice profile of her. Do you know what it was called before, 30 years before that? It was called Lake Forest Bakery. And
that oven.
The Veely family owned it. And the only reason I know that is I worked with their son, Marcus, at the state. So for Judy Barr, Topeka. And the Veelys are really nice folks.
We had Mary on the show 2-3 years ago, and she was telling us about that oven. That's the original oven in there.
Ooh, yeah.
Old school oven. But getting back to the tearing up Deerpath, you can't have the trucks coming in on those small streets and making the turn. So
Westminster.
Westminster.
Monster if you try to do that.
Well, what were they debating? They said Jason Wikipedia was looking for direction on what they should do it all at once or in phases, and doing it all at once, rip the Band-Aid off, kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it is a council too. It sounds like they were pretty unanimous in supporting that idea.
Hey, Alderman, there's a button in the mic. Hit the button.
Yeah, please.
Or do a lapel mic.
I don't know. We gotta. I mean, they.
Or the one dude is like, thank you.
What is that?
The guy on the right, all the way on the right.
White? Walter?
His name's Walter White?
No.
Whoever, the last alderman all the way on the right.
Fourth Ward?
No idea. And then how about Notz being pro temp?
Yeah.
Oh, Ted?
Did a pretty good job.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I don't, Randy's out of town. I don't know where Eric Oskarian was. I thought he was going to be the pro temp.
Is that who I'm talking about? Okay. Don't know.
Yeah. He had some good comments though about Deerpath.
the dust and the dirt. I thought that was
Yeah.
a big thing. I did manage to hear it when he was all the way back here, but
Oh, well, I was at that point, I was in the room. So yeah, I heard it in the room. But yeah, they need to look, there's like 10 people in the room usually, unless there's something controversial or there's an awards thing. 'Cause there were a lot of people from earlier.
there was a decent amount of people that watched it from what I saw.
Yeah.
So they had good viewership. So if you're going to do
It's going to be
that,
higher now that we're talking about it. But yeah, it's definitely, like I said it earlier, it is a master class on local government. You should watch.
okay, why was it?
Well, you had everything that local government is about being discussed here. You had, first of all, you had a swearing in of a new police chief, okay? But then you had the water main, you had Deerpath, you had Bank Lane, you had, you know, this is the stuff that affects us a hell of a lot more than whatever you're going to see in the presidential debate on September 10th. But, you know, it's not, what did Randy say? Randy Tax say when he was running for mayor on the podcast? He goes,
Boring
good
government, baby.
Good government is boring government. So it's really, but look, it's really important for these business owners to maintain access to their business during construction. It's their lifeline, and it's really important for residents to be able to get through there safely and everything. You know, I had to start thinking about all the issues with the scooters and the bikes downtown. How's that going to play out during this construction? You know, seriously, because I mean, unfortunately, there have been construction sites in other cities where a kid wandered into the construction site and got hurt or something. So all these little things that the public works guys and the contractors are going to have to think about, which I'm sure they are. I'm sure.
Did you see those drawings? That's going to be, I get it, and then I don't get it. Like what I get is like Sweets, you know, that walkway across there. There's so many blind spots when you have like a big ass SUV park there. Even if you're crawling along, you have some idiot staring down at their phone, walking right into traffic. Talk about thinning the herd, but they're going to bring out trees, or what do you call those things? They're like cement.
Or
It's going to be cement curves with a tree in it to kind of narrow it up or whatever, so you can't get a parking spot there. So I don't know. I get it, and I don't get it. I'll again, we posted the video for everybody to watch, but it's going to be it's going to be narrower in some places and wider in the others. Whatever. Kathy Czerniak did another fine job,
as always.
Anything new on Bank Lane other than they may have it going both ways again during construction? I didn't catch anything.
Well, they have not, there is no final determination of what will happen with Bank Lane when all this construction work is done. It's still, you go back, do you make it one way southbound? Do you make it one way northbound? I mean, there's a lot of, you know, I think it's going to be it's one of those things. I think that there's a lot of strong feelings by a lot of people on it.
Like what?
Well, if you're used to being able to go south and you can't anymore, or north and you can't anymore, you're like, look, you know, it's like, I don't know. I mean,
Bank Lane's an alley.
Yeah, but I think they're going to transform it into something much more than an alley.
A nicer alley. Let's be real.
Well, they're going to take all the utilities out. They're going to clean it up. It's going to look like a little French market type thing. No, you've been to Europe, those little narrow streets and stuff.
Yeah. A nice alley.
It'd be nicer than the alley where you grew up in Chicago, I bet.
Hey man, that's where you learn to play ball. So Kathy, another fine job. I'll put her.
And Mike Thomas did a nice job too, I thought.
Yeah, I'll put those clips up here so everybody can check them out.
Next item on our agenda, our Director of Community Development, Kathy Czerniak, will presenting the Bank Lane Streetscape Enhancement Plan, the planning and process update. With that, welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Pro Tem Mayor Notz. Did I say that right? Members of the council, you up for one more presentation? It'll be shorter. It'll be easier. Promise. Bank Lane is about 2 years behind Deerpath streetscape. So we are in the planning stage, but there is an opportunity with all the work you just heard about to make sure if there is some work, particularly just north and south of Bank Lane, that should be coordinated while we have, as you saw, portions of Bank Lane will be closed. We really want to be able to coordinate that so that we're not ripping up what we've done with Deerpath. Bank Lane Streetscape Enhancement Plan. I want to review what it is and why we're doing it. Talk a little bit about the process to date. Talk about the concepts that have come out of the process to date, and then talk about next steps. What it is. It is, as I just said, this is the planning process. What will be the outcome of this process is a plan that will identify possible enhancements to Bank Lane all the way from the south end at Vine Avenue, going all the way to Wisconsin Avenue. A lot of people, when you think about Bank Lane, you think about that portion of Bank Lane that's immediately adjacent to Market Square. But I can tell you, those people who have condos that look over the south part of Bank Lane, they know they're on Bank Lane, and they'd like some enhancements there too. Why we're doing this, over the years, we periodically have usually appoint some kind of a group to study the Central Business District. I don't know, every 7 years, every 10 years. And each time those groups made up of different people have walked the Central Business District, when they get to Bank Lane, almost every time people have said, gosh, this is really a cool street and it could really be something. But in the past, we've always put it off, thinking, let's wait until some redevelopment occurs, let's wait until we know what's happening with the post office. But this time, when you saw the comprehensive update to the Central Business Chapter of the comp plan, with this vision, looking forward, the vision is not to change the Central Business District into something different, something more akin to business districts in other communities, but instead to enhance and preserve the historic character and architecturally significant buildings and, importantly, spaces, and to maintain an environment in which businesses thrive and a place residents and visitors are drawn to again and again for day-to-day needs, a special night out, to find a one-of-a-kind gift, and to celebrate the community. That was the vision that this council approved as part of the comprehensive plan update. And a key part of that 18-month discussion was talking about opportunities for Bank Lane. Every time the advisory group got into a discussion about something else, it seemed like every time they met, we ended up at Bank Lane. So with your direction, instead of all agreeing that Bank Lane could be something special and let's do it in the future, you directed that we develop a plan. Bank Lane is different than Deerpath. What this plan will be, what we know, because you did authorize and Public Works Department did undertake an assessment of all of the infrastructure in the Central Business District. What we know is we're not looking at the need to replace a major water main on Bank Lane. We're not looking at some big infrastructure project. We know that Bank Lane, unlike Deerpath, is very narrow in areas, and that it is not a main arterial, certainly not a main arterial through our Central Business District, but actually lends itself to a pedestrian corridor. Unlike Deerpath Streetscape Plan, the Bank Lane plan will also lend itself to being implemented incrementally. As I said, some pieces might be completely appropriate to incorporate with the Deerpath streetscape, but what you've heard already is going to be disruptive. We certainly couldn't undertake a project at the same time that closed the intersection of Bank Lane in Wisconsin and Bank Lane in Westminster and Bank Lane in Illinois. So it's just simply not feasible to, or necessary to do that, a project in the same way. The other very different thing about Bank Lane is that as you walk up and down Bank Lane, I'm sure you can all point to properties that have some real and perhaps near-term potential for redevelopment. From one end to the other. At one end, you have the infamous 222 building. Some would call it a landmark, others not so much. What we do know is that, unlike on Deerpath, Bank Lane has, in certain areas, above-ground utilities. If you're sitting at Hometown Coffee, and looking south, you see those above-ground utilities. If you walk the block between Illinois and Vine, you see those above-ground utilities. So those are some real differences between Deerpath plan, streetscape enhancement plan, and Bank Lane. So why we're doing it, it's time. This council said it's time. And what it is will be a plan that will look at the entirety of Bank Lane and really set expectations and be a roadmap for Public Works, for this council to look at as we do other projects, and perhaps some improvements can be integrated with other projects, but it can also be a clear indication of the city's expectations as properties up and down Bank Lane are redeveloped. So moving on, our process to date, late June, we began with a feedback, a community input session without any plans, without any direction. We had about 70 people come into this room, a couple different sessions. We had personally invited businesses along Bank Lane and those in the area, and also residents. We also engaged people at a Thursday night concert. We had a table there, so a concert in the square, and tried to get input from people as we stood along Bank Lane. More recently, we had a follow-up work session in here where the Lakota group, our consultants, had taken that feedback from late June and put it on 10-foot-long images of Bank Lane with different ideas, and we got feedback on those concepts. We did provide an online survey, and we'll be putting another up shortly to get some additional input on the concepts as they're now developed. So I mentioned Bank Lane, the entire length, Wisconsin at the north end, Vine at the south end. One of the concepts that came out of the discussion was that, is there a way to unify Bank Lane? Are there things we can do to make it feel like a unique pedestrian corridor? To really increase, as one of our residents said, the moments of surprise that you find as you're walking along Bank Lane, whether it's an alley, whether it's the unique hardscape that the Deerpath Inn had installed in their valet area. Is there a way to increase the number of those special moments that people experience? And is there a way to connect that? Is there a way to really make Bank Lane a walkable corridor for those residents who live in condos behind Egg Harbor and behind Chief's Pub? Is there a way to entice people who live south of the Central Business District to walk that corridor? Just really thinking about ways to take advantage of this unique road that's limited in length, is interrupted by Market Square, but is certainly unlike any other place in our Central Business District. We looked at it as a whole, and as you see here, we looked at individual blocks, recognizing that each block is very unique and serves a different function. Based on discussions to date and the concepts developed to date, we talked about ideas for unifying features that could unify Bank Lane, whether it's lighting, whether it's treatments at the intersections. Alderman Weber, with attention to making sure those are walkable and maintainable for our public works staff. Looking at hardscape materials. We have a palette of hardscape materials that we're using on Deerpath. How do we bring those around the corner? Do they remain the same? Are there slight variations? Do the hardscape materials have some consistency but change as we move north and south? How do we take advantage of the limited opportunities to add landscaping? We want to be sure that if we identify landscaped areas, that they are sustainable. We've seen that in other areas. We don't want to put in tree grates that don't support trees and then become a jar. So really looking at what kind of landscape treatments, and maybe that's baskets, or maybe that's something, in some areas, something other than planting in the ground. Do we look at wider sidewalks? Do we look at narrower streets in some areas and wider streets in other areas? Currently, in many areas of Bank Lane, we don't have curbs. We have a sidewalk that simply terminates at the street. Should we look at curbless streets in some of those areas? I'm actually getting into differences. Unifying features. Seat walls. You heard Michael Thomas mention seat walls. Really picking up on the seat wall in front of City Hall, replicating it, or at least having it serve as an inspiration for a knee wall across the street. Is there a unique knee wall that picks up on features from Market Square and from City Hall that we can design for Bank Lane that really signifies that Bank Lane is somewhere special? As properties redevelop, maybe there are different places where this knee wall gets dropped in. People can use it for gathering or sitting. Maybe it has a unique feature. Undergrounding utilities came up often, but again, that's something that usually is part of some other kind of project. It is very expensive. Looking at fewer curb cuts, both on private properties. If you look at the block just south of Deerpath, Midwest Bank has 2 curb cuts, Northern Trust has 2 curb cuts. We have a curb cut for the parking deck we share with the bank. The bank has a curb cut into the ATM. Is there an opportunity, even looking to the north in the city parking lot, which has access both from Oakwood and from Bank Lane? Could some of that area be closed off to make pedestrians feel more comfortable, more welcome, and really give pedestrians more space? In some areas of Bank Lane, you almost have to walk single file if you're walking with someone on a sidewalk. Public art, is there some way that we can, again, identify some kind of a unique feature that could be repeated, so as people walk from the Deerpath in to Market Square and then on to Hometown Coffee, they know they're somewhere special. They're in a place that they will remember. What we consistently heard is keep it simple. Don't follow the trend of the day. In many other communities, you'll see banners and arches and many different features, but really recognizing that Bank Lane really is a small space. We need to be careful to balance what we're doing there to not make it feel overdone or cluttered. So simple, high quality, and aligned, not necessarily matching the character of both Market Square, Deerpath, and taking advantage of some features from City Hall. As we move to recognizing the unique features of each block, we know that some blocks are essential in providing trash pickups and deliveries to businesses. So we need to be aware of that. We know that some blocks feel better to walk. If you're walking from Deerpath to Market Square, it usually feels better than if you're walking the block south, where it feels a bit more wasteland is too strong of a word, a bit less welcoming. Some blocks have on-street parking. We heard from some businesses that having some on-street parking on Bank Lane is really important to them. How do we do that? Are there ways that we can easily, quickly, safely close streets on a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night to allow businesses to spill out into the street safely and easily, and perhaps more elegantly? Certainly we close streets off for the Deerpath Art Fair, but is there a way we can do it more elegantly? We know there are solutions out there. Some blocks have more redevelopment potential than others. Again, this is different than most of Deerpath. There's some properties on Deerpath that have that potential, but Bank Lane, there's a number. Portions of Bank Lane have the opportunity to provide connections and vistas both to the east and west. If you think of the parking lot to the south of Northern Trust, is there an opportunity as Bank Lane gets improved to create a pedestrian connection? Perhaps a some kind of a vista with an endpoint that takes you through to Western, that helps people move through, encourages them to move through different parts of our central business district. Some of you may remember that when Bank of America, when that site was redeveloped on the southwest corner of Wisconsin and Western, that as part of that, in order to allow a bank to go in there, which had been at that point and still is required to be approved through a special use permit, the council required a retail business and required that pedestrian connection, which walks right by their ATM, a direct connection that wasn't there from the Corda parking lot, the city lot, through to Western. Are there more opportunities for that? Street width, sidewalk width. Are there some areas as property redeveloped that we want to request additional right-of-way, or that we want to request an easement to allow sidewalks to be wider? I mentioned the available of parking areas, and public property and private property, and that's incorrect up there. Private property and public right-of-way. There are some areas where private properties abut Bank Lane and could really benefit from some cleanup. Are there ways that we can incent those property owners and encourage them with an overall plan to do their part and make those improvements? So those are just some of the concepts that have come up so far. We have completed the engage and assess process. We are at the end of the visioning and feedback process. We're now in the process of developing a final plan, which will again be put out for some final comments. And again, we'll be looking closely at developing details in the very near term for those areas just north and south of Bank Lane. Next steps, we did last week present the plan, the early concepts, to the Historic Preservation Commission. We'll be working through some final design concepts. We will be before the Plan Commission in early October, and we will be back to the City Council within 30 to 45 days for your direction and input. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Kathy, does anyone have any questions for Kathy?
Well, you did say you were going to follow up on that one-way.
I did.
South, and I'll just point out that the two renderings that one that was in your presentation, and the one that was in Mike's, appear to show a one-way street going south on Bank Lane off of Deerpath.
And the answer to your question is we don't know yet. So it is, we've heard, there's been discussions about the direction of traffic all up and down Bank Lane. So it's been interesting. But I'm sure there will be options that'll be presented.
And
Dana Olson, I think, the comms part of it, they're working through it. So be nice.
I am nice. Come on, Dana, come on the show. Give me a different opinion on it. So, Joe, a lot of this is going to be the clips. I think it's important for people to see the construction. I think it's good to see who the new chief is.
Go to the meet and greets, and there's some aldermanic, a coffee with the alderman. The third ward's going to be right here at Eloa Farm. So I'm really looking forward to walking over and seeing my two great aldermen, Eric Gashgarian and Alice Levert.
And what else did they have? The Openlands, they had something on there.
Yeah. Bagpipes and Bonfire coming up soon, bud. Maybe we can get them on to preview it. I don't know.
Yeah, but what were they talking about? Like, what's the update? I
didn't. Okay, again, I got there afterwards.
You fell asleep like I did.
No, I didn't get there till 7 o'clock. They were done. So they, and I'm trying to catch up on the tape of it, but they give an update. Openlands is a really neat thing. Okay. And I think it really adds, it started in the late 60s, I believe, with people voluntarily contributing funds to preserve land from development. And over the years, they've purchased a lot of land that in other cities would have been just developed into tracts of housing. So, and that's what makes Lake Forest unique. It's this open.
No, hold on. Now, my opinion on open lands, didn't they pull the rug on that little wildlife sanctuary there? I forgot that guy's name, but
oh, you mean in Eloa? No.
Okay, that was Elua?
Nothing. You talking about the Wildlife Discovery Center?
Yeah.
That was at Elua. No. I mean,
Why can you find the money for these open lands and you can't for the wildlife discovery?
Openlands has nothing. That Openlands doesn't own that property. That's the city.
Okay.
The city owns that, and they rent that out to Elua Farm Foundation.
Didn't they sell the land to open lands?
Well, when that property got redeveloped 20 years ago, I do think it got subdivided amongst open lands and the city and the forest.
That's my point.
But Openlands is a private organization. Okay, they don't get tax dollars. Now, when the Forest Preserve does stuff, Lake County Forest Preserve, that's our tax dollars. There's actually a referendum on the ballot this November that if you vote yes, you're going to vote to raise your property taxes to acquire more land. And I think maybe we should do a show on that. I'm trying to get some people on both sides of that issue to come on and talk about it. But that's another property tax hike referendum.
Speaking of state dollars, which I didn't think Illinois had any money, one of the things about the Deerpath,
federal.
I didn't know federal had the money either.
They just print it. The feds just print it, and they got that's why we have so much inflation right now.
But kudos to the city guys and gals who figured out how to get these grants, because I think they got what, $2 million?
Yeah, something like that. I think that was the right. I mean, look, we pay a lot here in Lake Forest in taxes to both the state and federal government, right?
Not as much as some.
We should get some of that back. All right, I get the whole Robin Hood thing that Lake Forest should be paying to the state to help support Chicago and blah, 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 blah.
True that.
But we really pay a lot here, a lot in income taxes in this city compared to most cities. So we should get some of that back. And to their credit, Mayor Tack and the city have been, and the staff at the city have been really good about finding these grants. I'm sure they've had good working relationships with the two legislators.
But they got $2 million, and they weren't. I forgot what it was, but they're figuring out how to do these grants, because part of putting an application is you have to have what's your second year move, right?
Yep. So IDOT has a whole process when they do these. When you do this, you don't just go to IDOT and say, "Hey, give us some money." It doesn't. You have to have plans. And there are companies, that specialize in helping work on this, and they've worked through that. And obviously, like I said, we've got a staff that's pretty seasoned here. This ain't their first rodeo with this stuff, so they know the drill. They know how to write proposal, because not every proposal gets approved by IDOT.
They didn't, but they learned it. So kudos to them to figure that stuff out while there's still money being printed.
Well, the state is doing better financially now because they got bailed out by the feds during COVID. So and quite honestly, if they better? Well, their bond rating went up. It's still not as high as the Lake Forest bond rating, but the state's bond rating has gone up. They're paying their bills relatively on time now, which didn't happen before. But it's still it's just a numbers game with them. There really needs to be some serious reform of how the state does business and spending. And I'm not talking about this type of stuff. This is all good spending, but we're talking about here with Lake Forest and other cities on public works projects. But there is so much waste in state government. I could do a class.
You should, and we'd have 2 people watching.
Yeah, I know, but it's why our taxes. We are the highest. If you take all the different taxes that we pay, income tax, property tax, gas tax, sales tax, you throw all that in, and you do that as a percentage of family income, we're the highest tax state in the country.
Yeah. And we don't have the
second highest tax in the country. Only California is higher.
I was going to say, there's no Pacific Ocean here. We got Lake Michigan, but no Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just, I don't know. It's Lake Forest is well run. I give them a lot of credit. But the state of, like you had that guest on a few months ago who moved to Florida. he said, I don't have any problem with how the city of Lake Forest is run. It's the state of Illinois. That's the problem. And he's right. State's got a lot. And it's years in the making, and it was bipartisan. Though there's only one party in charge right now in the state. So,
all right, Joe, most of this show is going to be the fans checking out the city council meeting on the construction.
Yeah.
So you do need to see where the detours are going to be. You do need to see the pictures of the planks you're going to have to walk on and
walk the plank. Get your bagel. With cream, please don't spill the cream cheese on the wood plank. That'll hard to clean off.
Yeah, the flies won't like it.
I mean, look, this whole thing doesn't start till next year. So us talking about it now is good, but look, the way construction plays out, I've seen this a million times. Whether it's the Kennedy Expressway construction or this. Most people, they hear about it, they file it in the back of their head, and then it isn't until the morning that it starts that they're like, oh my God, what the?
I wish there was a YouTube video that would explain to me what's going on. Here you go.
When did this happen? And, I have a daughter at the high school who leaves 5 minutes before school starts. She's going to have to allow some extra time to get over there because of this Deerpath business. So I suppose they'll take Green Bay over to Woodland or whatever. But
I'm sure Dr. Montgomery will have the monorail going by then.
You'll be the driver.
Joe Weiss, go Bears.
Go Bears, go Scouts.
Go Scouts. Whoever they're playing next.
Go Deerpath Road reconstruction next year.
Yeah, go bond rating.
Get it done quickly and correctly. Safely.
All right, bro. See you later. Bye.
Right.
The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Michelle Parno has lived and worked in Lake Forest for over 2 decades. Michelle's lending experience, when combined with her real estate expertise, makes her an invaluable asset to her clients as they navigate their home buying or selling process. Call Michelle now at 847-528-8721, 847-528-8721. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Laracy & Company CPAs, founded in 2010 by Lake Forest's own Brian Laracy, specializes in tax preparation and bookkeeping services. Earning the People Love Us on Yelp award, their process is straightforward. Just upload, review, and file. For a free quote, visit LaracyCPA.com now. That's LARISEYCPA.com. I'm excited to share with you something special from our Lake Forest community, the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa, located at 775 North Bank Lane in Lake Forest near Wisconsin Avenue. This just isn't any spa. They offer an amazing blend of traditional spa services plus the added benefit of medical procedures and treatments. In a relaxing and luxurious spa environment, you can enjoy a range of cosmetic and aesthetic treatments. These are all performed under the supervision of top medical professionals. The Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa provides skin care, facial rejuvenation, body contouring, laser hair removal, Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and much more. What's great is that each treatment is tailored not just to enhance your appearance, but also to address specific skin concerns and to promote overall well-being. So if you're looking to pamper yourself and take your beauty routine to the next level, give the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa a call at 224-768-8028 or visit them at their location on North Bank Lane. It's an experience your skin will thank you for. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters, Otto, John C., Helen, Herrick, and J.M.